What if one accidental photograph and one chance meeting in an airport could change the course of your creative life, setting off a career defining photographic journey through Paris? Welcome back to I Love Your Stories. I'm your host, Hava Gurevich, and today I'm joined by photographer and author Gary Zuercher, the artist behind The Glow of Paris, The Bridges of Paris at Night, a project born from two beautiful mistakes. That accidental overexposed frame became the spark for a 6 year quest to photograph every Paris bridge under the magic of night. Gary shares how the project unfolded, the book, the exhibitions, and why he chose to photograph in winter. And he retells the unexpected encounter in Mexico City that first brought him to Paris and eventually to his wife. We also talk about his unusual dual career in business and photography, the discipline of mastering a craft, and why he believes every photographer should experience real film in the darkroom. If you love stories of creative persistence, romance, chance, and a long term project that reshapes a life, this episode is for you. Gary, welcome to the episode. Now, quick word from our sponsor, and then we'll get right back to the show. When I started selling my art, I had absolutely no idea how to actually turn it into a business, a professional business. And then I came across art storefronts, and that was a game changer. I've been a customer now for years, and they've been instrumental every step of the way of helping me succeed. I have a gorgeous, powerful commerce website. I have marketing tools and a membership to a community that is very supportive and teaches me how to succeed as an artist. Check them out, artstorefronts.com, and tell them Hala sent you. Welcome back to the podcast. And I'm really excited for my guest today, the celebrated photographer, Gary Zuercher. Gary, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the episode. I want to extend a very warm hello from my mom, who you might know is your number one fan. And I joke that you are her favorite artist who's not her daughter. So, but let's just start. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into photography, and um, especially the Paris Bridges project, which is the work that, at least for me, you're best known for.
Sure, I'd be glad to. But instead of going back from the day I was born and talking to you about everything that's happened since, I'll talk to you about the project of photographing the bridges of Paris at night and how it started. It started from a mistake. I was out shooting one night in Paris and decided to shoot a photo of the Alexander III Bridge, which I think is it's the most beautiful bridge in Paris, and it's one of the most beautiful bridges in the world. I shot the shot. I looked at what I'd done, and I realized that I had overexposed it to like 3 or 4 stops. And in order to try to save the negative, when I got back to the darkroom, I decided to underdevelop the film. So overexposure and underdevelopment. It was something I had read about in one of the Ansel Adams books. Hadn't really done it before. So I got a negative, and it looked very good. And I printed it, and the print took my breath away. I mean, it was glowing, it was luminous. I thought, wow, why don't I just shoot all of the bridges of Paris at night using the same method? And I thought, well, gee, if I do that, it's probably going to take a year or more. So that was mistake number 2. It took 5 years. And after the 5 years, then I spent another year investigating or studying the history of each of the bridges, so that when I made the book, The Glow of Paris, The Bridges of Paris at Night, it would be a book that was not just photos, but it will be a book that has some meat to it, that had explained the history of the bridges in the background. So, in answer to your first question, that's how the project got
That's
started.
how the project got started. I would like to go back in time a little bit, not to the day you were born, but, um, you have been a photographer for a long time. Where did you go to school? And I mean, I think you did. You studied photography, I believe, in Paris?
Well, I studied at the Parsons School of Design in Paris, but I went to university at the Ohio State University. Uh,
You
I,
know
s- I
I'm in
see you're
You
chuckling.
know I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, right? I don't care.
Oh,
I don't care about
yes, and you know what happened last week.
I heard.
And then, and what else did you ask? You wanted my
So,
education, and
yeah, when did you study? What got you into photography in the first place?
in the first place, what got me into photography was I was working on a merit badge for Boy Scouts. And I created a kind of a dark room in my parents' basement. And when I developed that first print, and I saw it emerge from its liquid bath and saw what it looked like, I fell in love with it. And that's how I really got started doing photography. But I had a dual career, business on the one hand and photography on the other.
Mm.
And I started a number of companies and built them and sold them at the same time I was doing professional photography.
What got you to Paris? How did you end up in Paris in the first place?
It started in Cancun, Mexico.
As it does.
I was on I was on business, and I was in the Cancun, Mexico airport terminal, and a beautiful young French woman came up to me and asked if she could read my paper. She and her other girlfriend had been on vacation in Isla Mujeres, in off an island off of Cancun, and had been out of touch with civilization. And I had the Mexico City Daily News that I brought down that morning, and it was in English. I gave her the newspaper, and I said, and we were both going back to Mexico City, but I was connecting out to Guadalajara. And I said, if I get back tonight in time, do you two want to have a drink? They said, sure. And so I went to Guadalajara. I came back from Guadalajara. From my hotel room, I called their hotel. They were staying at um, a really fancy place. It was called the Holiday Inn, Mexico City. And you wouldn't expect this to happen in Mexico. But I called the hotel, and the woman who answered the phone said, "Oh, yes, they've been waiting for your call." So they were in the restaurant. She said, "I'll put you through." So they were in the restaurant. I went and met with them, and we had a drink and so forth. What I didn't find out until much later was they were waiting for a call from this guy named Remy, who was going to take them to Plaza Garibaldi.
Oh.
They weren't waiting for my call. But anyhow, this was October, and I hate to tell you how long ago it is. This was October 1979. And as we parted that evening, Dominique was her name. I said to Dominique, would you like to have dinner together on November 17th? And this was October. So I knew I had to be in Germany for business. And I knew that on the way back, I could stop in Paris if there was a reason. And so she said, sure. And she gave me her number at her office. And I called from Germany. We made arrangements to meet for dinner. And I went to Paris and decided that what I wanted to do is stay at the best hotel in Paris just to impress. So I stayed at the Plaza Athénée. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it is, as a matter of fact, the Plaza Athénée Hotel is where Mata Hari was arrested in
Oh.
1910 or 12, something like that. It's a great, great hotel. Anyhow, Dominique was supposed to show up at 7 o'clock. We were going to go to dinner. I sat there. 7 o'clock came and went. 7:05 came and went. 7:10 came and went. And I thought, here I am waiting up here in my room for her to call me. Why don't I go down to the lobby and wait for her? So I went to the elevator and it wasn't working. And I didn't know it at the time, but as soon as I walked out of the room, my phone started to ring. And it was forever. And I finally got down to the lobby as I saw the back end of Dominique going out the front door. because she just got tired of no answer in the room, no contact. I yelled at her, and actually we had dinner at the Plaza Athénée, and the remarkable thing about the dinner was we ordered, food was delivered, picked up the salt shaker and put some salt on my food, and Dominique looked at me and she said, "You've just salted your food. They have a chef here who knows what he's doing. He knows how to cook food. He does it properly. And you haven't even tasted it. You put salt on it." Well, it was right. What can you do with a woman like that except marry her? So I did. So that's what took me to Paris. And we bought an apartment in Paris in 1993. In 2000, I sold the last of the companies that I had, decided that we would spend more time in Paris. And so we bought a larger apartment. And that is how I got to, that's a long story in answer to a short question.
But it's very funny because that story is full of, like, near misses
Oh
and
man, there
just
were near misses.
coincidences, and it just seems like so, the body of work that the Paris Bridges, can I say it's like the defining work, your artistic opus in a sense, right?
Yes, it is.
And when when you start talking about it, you start by saying it started from 2 mistakes. And
It
like
started from two mistakes in Cancun, Mexico.
so this is what's really fun about that. And this is a thread that I like to pick up in all conversations. When we look back at our successes or like the things that the pivotal moments in our lives, um, and we kind of like look back, how did I get here? More often than not, it's something that just was, missed the bus, had to take the subway and met the love of my life on the subway kind of thing. And it's just a really interesting, just observation about life in general that you just never know. And a lot of times the most benign moments become the best.
Yeah.
So you stayed in Paris for 5 years, photographing all the bridges.
Mm.
Um, and did you decide to publish your own book, or did you how did the book come about? Because you have an award-winning book about that project, and you said you also did a ton of research about all the bridges, so it's a very rich in information and imagery, and I'm gonna just say I showed the book to my mom, and she confiscated it from me. And it's her she just it took her a few days to look through it because she was very busy, but when she finally did, she's like, "Oh my god." And you inspired her because they go to Paris a lot, and you inspired her to go and visit the bridges. What so yeah, so you had all this material. What happened next?
Well, when I started to do the project, I had no grand plan in mind. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't even know was going to finish it. It was just, I just decided, well, why don't I do this? And the more I got into it, the more it grabs hold of you, and you can't quit in the middle of the thing. But I didn't have a book in mind until I was almost done with the project. And then because I decided, well, what I could do with the photographs is put them in a book. When I made that decision to study what the bridges were all about historically and so forth. Um, and that was a fairly intense study. There's a lot of things that are on the internet about some of the bridges that are wrong. You really have to pick and choose. I was able to use some archival data, and I bought every book that was ever written about the bridges. But in the end, I think the information of the bridges really complements the photographs to make it more of a, just instead of a picture book, and I don't know what word to call it, but
It's the definitive book of the Paris bridges
at night.
at night, devoid of people.
Well, and, interestingly, I also researched whether anybody had ever done what I did before. I'd found that there was no record of anyone ever shooting the bridges, all of them, at night.
Hmm.
So that was an impetus to continue the job. You know, I shot during the winter only. And the reason is because in the summer, it doesn't get dark in Paris till 11, little after 11, and they turn the lights out on the bridges
Oh.
at midnight. So you really don't have the opportunity to get good nighttime photography. And secondly, it's just full of tourists. And as soon as they see somebody with a tripod and a camera, they want to talk about the camera that they've got or the pictures they took. And the last thing you want to do is spend time talking with a bunch of tourists.
Yeah.
So shooting in the winter was good because the tourists aren't there.
Winter at night, you might yes.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you, it was kind of inspiring to be alone in the middle of the night down by the Seine River,
Mhm.
maybe 24, 25 degrees outside, and just kind of communicating with the river and the bridges because you're all alone. It's
Yeah.
it, it's an interesting feeling to do that. I mean, it's almost like the city is empty.
Yeah. So, so you decided to do a book, um,
Mark Editions is the
mhm,
publisher,
and the
and
book won an award.
yeah, it's the IPPY Gold Medal Award.
Amazing.
I forget what IPPY stands for. It's IPPY something or other. It got that at the annual New York Book Convention when the book first came out.
And the photographs themselves, I believe they are in permanent collections, both.
Yeah, they're in the Library of Congress, Georgetown University, Evansville, Indiana Museum Collection.
That's
Yes.
amazing. And, more importantly, that you created, an exhibition, a photography exhibition that like a museum exhibition for this collection. The industry term is a traveling exhibition. And that's kind of how we met. As a director of a traveling exhibitions company, you contacted me. You sent me the book, you sent me information about you. Um, you know, it was incredible photography. It was a no-brainer to say, "Yes, let's work together." You did have 1 or 2 shows in Paris? Do you wanna tell me about those 2 of them, yes.
Yeah. Um, I was contacted by the adjunct to the mayor of Paris about uh, the photography. So I met with her, took her book. The Glow of Paris is in English and in French. And in French, it's called Paris illumine, Le Comte de Paris la nuit. And so I gave her both of those books. And she liked what she saw, and that ended up being a contract between the mayor and me to exhibit the photos in Paris. Um, the City Hall of Paris, well, a lot of people don't know, it's called the Hotel de Ville, and it's not a hotel. But the Hotel de Ville has exhibitions, and the my exhibition was in October and November of 2 years ago, 23. And then later, oh, I said there's 3 exhibitions. There was an exhibition at the Gallery Gad collection in Paris that was right after that. And then last year, there was an exhibition of the same photographs at the at the Hotel of the Arrondissement, or the 13th arrondissement. The mayor of the arrondissement set up the exhibition.
Didn't you also have larger photographs displayed on this, like in public? Am I?
Yes, yes, yes. They were displayed on the grills of the Hotel de Ville,
Okay.
and there was a linear distance of the grills of about 250 yards. Oh, about almost the size of a football field.
Wow.
And the photos were along the Rue de Rivoli, which is one of the most well-known streets.
And those are very large photographs.
Yes, they were printed on Dibond aluminum, and they were 40 inches wide by 5 foot
Wow.
long.
Yeah.
They were really very big. And as a matter of fact, I had to take the negatives and rescan them to a higher definition
Yeah.
so that they would blow up that nicely, that big. And they did. They would really blow up nicely.
You shoot 35 millimeter, or was it
No,
medium format?
medium format.
Medium format. Yeah, it had to be because there's so much detail. You can't get that from a
I
35.
would like to have shot in large format, but being on the street in Paris at night, I didn't want to have a
Yeah.
I didn't want to have a blanket over my head looking into
Yeah.
never know who'd come up behind you and hitting you on the back of the head. Oh, but that brings up another thought. Paris, I found, was very, very safe.
Mm.
Very safe.
Um, so the the book is done. There's been exhibitions. Um, what are you most excited about right now? What are you working on? What is your current passion?
Well, it has nothing to do with photography.
That's fine.
I'm involved with the Association of Americans Resident Overseas, and I'm on the board of directors there. And so I'm spending a lot of time working with the association and approaching the problems of Americans living overseas. There are a lot of problems for Americans who live overseas, most of which are created by the U.S. government. Uh, and for instance, if you have a bank account and you move overseas, your bank will probably cancel you if you don't have a U.S. address. So one of the problems is for Americans overseas to have a U.S. address. You need a U.S. address, well, especially if people are on Social Security,
Mhm.
any type of U.S. program, because the U.S. does not issue paper checks anymore.
Right.
And so they have to have a U.S. bank account to receive money from the U.S. government and to pay their taxes and so forth. So that's just one problem. Voting is another problem.
Mhm.
Citizenship is another problem. But it's a challenging situation and it's interesting. And the people that are involved on the AARO, it's pronounced Arrow. People who are involved in Arrow are really great people with great backgrounds, and it's a lot of fun and pleasure to work with them.
Um, any photography projects that you're
I'm
entertaining?
I'm not doing any right now. I think sometimes about another project, but in truth of fact, if I had known that it was going to take me 5 to 6 years when I started that project, I never would have done it. But having done it, I'm just thrilled that I did it.
Yeah. So thinking about that project, as far as your art career, that was a huge success. That has been a huge success, and it continues to live out its own life. Um,
Yes.
how would you, as an artist, as a photographer, as an artist, like what is for you the definition of success, and how has it changed from when you started?
That's an interesting question because there's two different answers to it. There's the answer, how do you define success from my business standpoint?
Right.
How do you define success from the artistic standpoint? I think the measure of success from the artistic standpoint is knowing that you've done a good job. And there are many things that prove to yourself that you've done a good job, how it's received by other people, or even what kind of media coverage you get from it. But it's mostly determining that you have done, you yourself have done a good job, and you look at what you've done and you think there isn't an awful lot that I could have done any better
Yeah.
if I did this. And that's good. Now, on the other hand, on business, it's how much you sell the business for.
Right. Um,
No, no, but also in business, having a good product, having good, satisfied customers, and having a good team of people that you have hired to work.
yeah. Um, if you were to talk to a photographer that is just starting out their career, um, what advice would you give them?
The first advice I would give them is to, in addition to your digital camera, go into a darkroom and learn how to develop film, print film, and also how to go out and shoot on film. Because there's a basis there, a basis of an educational basis that gives you a certain bunch of information that you don't get digitally.
Mhm.
So it would, and then do your digital photography, but it gives you a basis to think more broadly, I believe, than um, just digitally. You know, when I would shoot at night, I would shoot maybe 3 or 4 rolls at the most of film, and there was 12 exposures on each roll of film. So, you know, in a night, I might get 48 shots. You know, you go out digitally and you can get 48,000 shots.
Right.
But I'm not negative on digital. I mean, I use it myself,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
it's amazing how far it has come from its
Yeah.
beginnings and what you can do with it now. But one of the things with digital is you can lie.
Yes.
Digital photography, you can lie. You can't do that very easily with
Yeah. There's only so much dodging and burning you can do.
exactly, exactly.
So, in addition to being a photographer, you said that you had a dual career. You had a career as a photographer, but you also started businesses. You had several businesses. I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, I have several businesses, and I also am a commercial multi-engine instrument rated pilot. I have
Really?
2,100 hours pilot and command time. The uh, businesses, the first one was called Wave Tech. Wave Tech manufactured wave making machinery, wave making machinery for water parks and swimming pools. And we were involved in the beginning of the water park industry. Anyhow, I mean, our customers were, well, Disney and a group called Wet and Wild. Worldwide, we had done about just under 200 wave pools, and it was really quite successful. When I sold it, there was a little fountain called Raindrop, and I sold the business, and I said I want to keep the Raindrop, and so I kept the Raindrop and ended up creating a company called Raindrop Products. And what we manufactured was children's water playground components. You see now, if you're looking for it, you see water playgrounds and spray grounds all over the country. So, and we did a lot of those, and that was the company that I sold in 2000. But back on the pilot thing, one day, I was with another guy and we decided to take a trip in my plane. And I lived in Mansfield, Ohio at the time. And we flew from Mansfield to Fort Lauderdale, and Fort Lauderdale to the Turks and Caicos Islands, and from there to Caracas, Venezuela, Quito, Ecuador, to Lara, Peru, Lima, Peru, Santiago, Chile, Antofagasta, Chile, over the Andes to Rio Gallegos, Argentina, and down to Ushuaia at the very tip of South America. And then the next, this took a while, but the day after we got to Ushuaia, we took that day and just flew around Cape Horn to look at it and see the beauty of that whole area. And then we came back through Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, and Suriname back up to Ohio. It was quite a trip. It took a month to do it.
Wow.
But, it was easy to navigate because going down South America, you just, you keep the water on your right. And coming back, you keep the water on your right.
Yeah.
Can't get lost.
That's great. Well, that's a good place to end the interview on. Um, Thank you. It's been a pleasure finally meeting you in person after all those years of talking on the phone and
At least now I know what you look like.
exactly. And I wish you continuing success. And thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure. It's been a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks again for tuning in. That's our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please help us out by leaving a review, a comment, subscribing, sharing it with your friends. Every little bit helps, and I really appreciate it. And before we go, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor and producer, Art Storefronts. If you've been thinking about turning your art into a real business or just want to level up your online presence, now is honestly the best time, especially with the holiday selling season coming up in Q4. I can't stress this enough. Art Storefronts isn't just a website builder. They're a full-blown partner for your art business. They give you the tools, education, and marketing support to actually make sales, not just sit online and hope. And if you're unsure whether your art will sell, no worries. Just head to artstorefronts.com and sign up for a demo. They'll give you a free art review and a marketing assessment of your art to show you exactly what's possible. So go to artstorefronts.com, tell them Hava sent you, and I'll catch you on the next episode.